Greetings and welcome. I'm PsychicMediumRoberto, and I truly hope you're doing well. I'm guided by Spirit. Trigger warning: the subject matter is of a mature nature and deals with true crime events. All cases are treated as alleged until proven in a court of law. Alright, so I'm going to be doing, I would say, a long read on the Delphi case. The case is now sitting in court and started on a couple of days ago. In fact, when did the court case start? The 14th of October, so this past week. So I had looked at the case about a year ago, but the focus was more on whether he was, Richard, the current alleged suspect, was involved in the Iowa or the Delphi murders. And I didn't really do a deep dive into the case itself. And then, of course, during this week, Grizzly True Crime is covering the court case. And fortunately, she will be having a guest every Sunday who will be attending as much of the court dates as possible and sharing that information on her channel, because it is a closed court case and no media is allowed in. So yes, some useful dates. Court starts the 14th and should finish around about November the 15th. Now, I've got the suspect's date of birth here, and I got that date of birth from the Probable Cause affidavit, and I'll leave a link in the description if you want to read it. It also provides his date of birth, and this is his date of birth here. Now, let's just go here quickly. Here is the main chart. The girls went missing on February the 13th. They were out walking in the park, a wilderness area. They were meant to meet the parents, whoever was picking them up, at around 3:30, round about there. But they did not show, and of course the parents themselves started looking for the girls. That was on February the 13th, and unfortunately the two girls were discovered during this time here, around noon the following day. So what I've done is, here's the 72-hour wraparound, the day they go walking and missing, and then the discovery. And then I always like to have at least one day after, and I included a couple of days before. Now, as you can see, I haven't done much work. I've just done some kind of eye spotting of numbers, and I'm seeing some anomalies. And I've included Richard's date of birth here to see if we can put him at the crime scene, or let's at least see what is going down and what has transpired, because I haven't done a deep dive on this case at all. And of course, during the week, there's now so-called new DNA evidence that hasn't even been tested. There was hair found that does not match Richard. And of course, there's various theories how that hair may have got there, and it's believed that the hair is actually one of the family members. And we know the girls unfortunately had their clothes swapped in and out, so that hair may have come from the clothing itself. But be that as it may, I want to do a deep dive, and let's have a look. To get going, September the 9th, 1972 gives us the 9 plus 9. So this person already has a conflict within themselves. And you know, unfortunately, when you're dealing with something like a 9, and unfortunately we are dealing with a murder case, unfortunately 2 young girls were murdered. This person in his date of birth has a problem already, 9 plus 9. And when you have a conflict like this in relation to murder, is about murder. Because I've said many times, 9 is the highest number you can get in numerology, right? One could argue it's the God number, creation. But the issue here, when you have a 9 plus 9, and you can almost even do this, is this person is fighting with themselves. And this brings around issues like life versus life, life and death, preoccupation. We've got 18-9 outcome from the 9 and 9, which in the negative, and we're going to look at this in the negative first, can be problematic. Because, if you had to look at this, my first impression when I look at these date of birth, this date of birth, and again, it's not to say if you've got the exact, this is different circumstances here. You can see all the numbers on the right-hand side here. We've seen a lot of these numbers in these high-profile cases. These are people, on one hand, you can say he's a killing machine, if so desired. I mean, you can take a set of numbers like this. In fact, I just realized something. There was a show that I was going to release about spies, and I'll still release it at some point. But a lot of them had these operational type numbers, 37, 10, 1. It's all operational numbers. So what we're seeing in his numbers here, there's almost 0 to 0, 0, 0 emotional content between the ears here. Now, we know he's got his own daughter and he's got a family, yes. A lot of people like to have a good shop window. But the problem with these numbers here, there's 0 emotional content. He would have felt 0 empathy for anyone that may have crossed his path. So we're dealing with someone here, in my opinion. I mean, we can look at all the positive aspects. There's positive to all of these numbers as well, right? And very good positive numbers with these numbers. I read now that he worked as a chemist, or part of the chemist, pharmacy environment chemist, which is also strange because these aren't those kind of numbers either. Something is a little bit off. So anyway, let's go deeper. Now that we know he's a 10-1-1 life path with all of these 10s, if we go 3 days before the missing situation, have a look here, February 10, 2017. It's always good to see, is there telltale signs approaching the event day? Look at this, 10-1. There are 3 10-1s there. Something has gone very wrong on this day. Now, of course, the court case is sitting and they would have done their investigation. But on February the 10th, something goes very wrong here. And it would ping directly on, I keep forgetting his name. What's it, Richard? Look, so we got the 10-1 here, right? On this day, something has happened in his life that has thrown him for a ball of shit. No jokes. Look here. All these 10-1s are out of sequence here. And interesting also, just to note, the year that the crime takes place in is a 10-1. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus the 7 is a 10, 10-1. So he is in play. This guy is in play, 10-1. Here's it here. And in my previous reading, it was more psychic awareness about the case. I had their date of births out, but not as developed as the 369 currently. And I do recall, I did watch the video back to see what my reading was. I usually don't, but in this case I did, because there was a lot of information spikes coming out of last week about this case. There are some things that aren't adding up, unfortunately. So we've got this 10-1 situation. Now, if it's believed that he worked in a pharmacy or in that facility, in that kind of environment, 22.4 does bring around a concept of medical facility. Okay. Medical facility. It's usually big facilities. We have an outcome 13.4, so that's a child number as well. If we take it as if we're looking at this globally and generally. And yet in the middle, we've got this 12.3. Now keep this in mind, because now I'm just being recalled and I'm looking for it. Look at the sequence of numbers here in the +6. We see a 12.3. Now this is the actual event going down in the +6, the human experience, unfortunately. But of course it's 9 days, exactly 9 days after, but look what's revealed. At the gateway of the park, if you will, 19.10.1. 19.10.1. Now we've got this 12.3 in the middle, which raises another question. Did the two girls go on their own accord? In other words, it's something they would have done anyway? Or were they lured there, or did someone say, hey, let's meet there on this day? Because this is what this number is suggesting. 12.3 is a meeting. So in the actual, they going outdoors to meet. It almost seems like there's an arranged meeting. But unfortunately, as we know it now, there's a hidden 21.3, which speaks about abduction. So the question I'm asking is, would the suspect, would he have engaged with them days leading up to the event? I mean, I don't know what capacity he was working in, but surely he would come across as someone familiar, right? I'm assuming. Because when we look in the +9, and we'll go deeper, I'm just pointing out problem numbers. We have a 24.6, which is a family number, very familiar. So whatever the situation may be, where they're meeting someone who was familiar, who in 15.6 is older than them, but there's also another little issue, because 15.6 would speak about someone that is older, but not too old that they would consider the person to be a father. So we would need to look for like a 404, but this is someone older than them, but I don't believe as old as Richard is. So there's a play going on here. And in my previous reading, I mentioned he may have received help post the event. So were the girls lured out there by someone they knew? Because the day before, we see here 24.6, 15.6. So in my opinion, something was arranged here. Something may have been arranged here for this event to take place. We have the perp waiting the night before. What gives it away in terms of this may have been pre-arranged was the 19.10.1. So then we must ask ourselves, because it's very clear that the person in custody is right here. There he is there. You can't get more of a direct match than that, which results in the homicide, 17-8. There's another anomalous number, is this 20 outcome 2. Now it almost says that, of course, it can speak about the body of water around that was present. This means that whoever committed the crime had an emotional outburst after the fact. I want to just point out before we go deeper. So on February the 10th, these are all anomalous numbers and sequencing, right? So here is a conflict. 10-10 conflict. I noticed here it shows itself up again in the +6. And we have another conflict right here. This is an emotional conflict. This is an emotional conflict. Whoever committed this crime, be it Richard and someone else or on his own, I'm going to look for evidence of the second person. There's an emotional conflict here as well. So those are anomalous numbers. Something transpired even maybe February 9, but definitely February 10. This, as we know the events today, started 22-4, the Grand Master Plan. Target children within the community, 23-5. See, this 14-5 here is problematic as well, hey? So we've got this 15-6 already aware of what's going to happen here. And this is why I'm just questioning, were any of these two girls in contact with these perpetrators? Was it normal for them to go down to the park or where they were found? So we find the 15-6. So if we take it on the basic, older male, pervert, 15-6, with a 14-5 speaks about older men, younger girls. And, unfortunately, with the 16-7 brings around the issue of serial behavior. Now, because the 26-8 in this case, there was a staging, we can agree that the way they found the girls, shoes under one of them, a bullet under one of them, by all accounts, even the clothes were swapped. So there was definitely a staging element going on here. And also, when you have a 17-8 around, it can also bring around issues of cover-ups. And again, it pings on Richard, 89. Now let's just see if there's evidence You see here, I know this is going to sound weird. Well, not necessarily weird. You know, Mr. Robot comes in and does the deal. And as mentioned afterwards, he has this breakdown. So could he have had, or in that moment, call someone to help him? Because we see at 22.4, there's a plan was hatched afterwards. Even here, 22.4. So that when we discover the bodies in this zone here, of course it's foul play, 14.5. Things have been manipulated, 21.3. And we know, we can agree based on the current narrative of how the bodies were found, there was a staging. 33.6, a sacrifice. And he must have come across as someone familiar, 24.6. +9, we know that it was a gruesome find. 35.8, not a number you want to see at a crime scene. And definitely by someone familiar. So I wonder, did they know this guy? I'm still trying to just see if there's more information about, was there more than one person even at the time? Or was it just the horror or realization of what he had done that caused, see, here's another conflict here. There's problems here. There's something went down post the event that caused a disruption, or as a result of his actions caused a disruption, because, you know what it could be? So after the event, in the +3, the areas there, something he can't stop, impulsive, compulsive disorders, 16.7, repetitive behavior. After the event, we have a +10 standoff here as well. And this 20 outcome 2, who does that? That could be the wife, his wife. So I'm still getting the sense that he's definitely on the scene, but there's other, he receives help, which may seem a bit odd. And definitely a big staging as well. So I believe this guy may have even had this guy here, Richard. I believe after the event, he had a breakdown. There's the 29.11.2, serious crime has been committed. There's let's just say an emotional outburst, brings around instability. but also brings in the wife. So I definitely believe he is definitely involved. I didn't even have his date of birth in the previous reading, but I'm definitely putting him at the scene without a doubt. There may have been issues after the fact, because there is an emotional outburst here, and who's going to be crying about it? Of course, we can say in the parents of the kids, but by this stage they wouldn't even have known about it. So did Richard confess to his wife? However, it is quite surprising that they took so long to arrest him. Why did it take so long to arrest him? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so I definitely believe he was there, and he may have had help after the fact. And I do believe he had an emotional breakdown after the fact as well. There's no doubt in my mind that he was there. Alright, we'll keep an eye on the court case. Love and light to the family members who were affected by this crime, and may justice prevail in the courts of law. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, please leave your thoughts and comments. I do love engaging with them, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay alert. Bye for now.